Welcome to the Magic on the Inside podcast by the Sisters Enchanted, where we chat magic, hot topics, personal development, and good old-fashioned life. Brew up something delicious and sit with us for a spell. Welcome to this episode of Magic on the Inside podcast. I am Sara, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and I am joined today by the other Sara. But I'm also the other Sara. So it's Team Sara. Sara Milne, our program director and one of our astrology teachers here at the Sisters Enchanted. Hello, Sara.
Hi, Sara.
As I was saying the other Sara, it's like, well, I'm the other Sara to you.
So no, you're never the other Sara. I'm always the other Sara.
Sara squared. Well, Sara Squared is here today to talk about the Aries Full Moon, and we're going to talk about the 2 weeks, the waning portion of the lunar cycle after. We want you to make sure that you stick around until the end of this podcast, because we're going to talk not just about the Aries Full Moon, but we're going to talk about the transition into Scorpio season and saying goodbye to Libra. And Sara is going to tell us about some suspicious energy, not suspicious, some potentially crazy making deep energies, right? Towards the end.
There is some deep energy.
There is lunar cycle. So you got to stick to the end to hear about that, because I was reading Sara's notes, and already I was like, well, I guess I should just move to Antarctica and live alone for the end of October, but that's not going to happen, I guess.
I just have moved to the coast to live alone. So I'm all right. I could just walk by the sea and just go, it's all over.
Right? I know. Well, we have actually the perfect solution to the end of the lunar cycle chaos, because Expedition to Soul starts on October 18th. And if you're in there with us in Expedition to Soul, we are going to, so it starts right now. If you're listening to this, it started today. You can register at expeditiontosoul.com, and you're going to have plenty of tools to help you get through everything.
Yeah, and this really is the right time. It really is the right time for that journey, for sure.
Yes. Okay, so this is a Libra lunar cycle. That means we had a Libra new moon, and now the Aries full moon is upon us. And my husband's an Aries sun, and I find him to be very challenging sometimes. So
oh yes, Aries.
I'm not exactly looking forward to this. But
it's interesting because I'm Sagittarius, like both of us, but not only Sara Square, but Sagittarius, Sara Square. And I also find Aries energy a challenge, to say the very least.
That is interesting. Yeah, something about it.
Yeah.
All right. So Sara is going to tell us about this Aries moon and really about lessons in inner truth and integrity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Aries is this very first sign of the zodiac, and it's kind of untamed fire. Like Aries gets an idea and we'll run with it. And we talk about Aries has the horns down, Aries the ram, horns down. I'm going to push through anything and anyone that gets in my way of my idea and what I want to achieve. And obviously it's very assertive energy. And that's why I think Sagittarius is that kind of more refined fire. And I think Sagittarius has a bit of a kind of I don't like this just blaze of that's asserting itself into my kind of refined fire. But of course, pioneers have to assert themselves. Aries is the pioneer of the zodiac. And we think about pioneers and people that have really kind of done inspirational things. If they hadn't asserted themselves, we wouldn't know about it. And their inspirational things would not be out for us all to enjoy. So it is quite important for us to be assertive. And it's interesting that Sara and I have both said we have a problem with Aries energy. So maybe we have a problem with our own. And when we think about shadow, when we always talk about in shadow, why am I have a problem with that energy? And I've often been told by people that I say people are arrogant, and it's not arrogant, they're just confident. So I obviously have got an issue with that Aries confident.
Oh, I can relate to that. It's so interesting because people look at me and the Sisters Enchanted, and I think oh, you must have so much confidence, but it's different for me being on camera than like in-person circumstances.
Yeah.
And I am not the person that's gonna like if there's a problem with my order or something wasn't
Mhm.
right, I'll just be like, well, I don't know, it's annoying, but it was a mistake, and I won't speak up.
I'm the same. I'm
Yeah.
exactly the same. I'm exactly the same. So self-assertion is really important. And a lot of us find it difficult. A lot of us feel like maybe we've been kind of programmed to believe that it's not polite. Like it's not polite
Yeah.
to complain. I used to go to restaurants with my mum. She would always complain if the food was cold, if it was wrong. And we'd be just like, don't do that, please. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I've paid for this food and it's not right. I'm complaining. So it's really important. Aries needs to, it needs us now to assert ourselves. So if you have an intention, like your lunar intention you've been working on, remember Libra is that kind of very balanced kind of like energy at the start of this lunar season. You might have been kind of wanting this kind of, I'm going to find peace, I'm going to find balance, but it might be time for you now to assert something into the world to be able to get that intention realized. Because I think one way to get around it is like Sarah, you come on camera and talk about things you're really passionate about with Sisters Enchanted. It's kind of like, well, I might be a bit shy, a bit like my kind of like my issue with self-assertion may not want me to do this, but I'm so passionate about what I'm doing that I want people to know about it. And that's kind of how you have to think about Aries. It's kind of, this is my idea. This is my passion. This is what I'm trying to achieve in this lunar cycle and in life. And if I don't assert myself into the world, then this is not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when we talk about the full moon and what are we going to leave, we always talk about leaving things behind on the full moon and letting things go of gratitude. I think this is a good time to think, what stops me from asserting myself and my passions into the world?
I like that.
Let go of that on this full moon.
And I think that that's beautiful in a Libra and air lunar cycle, because that's all thought,
Yes.
that's like if you're a tarot person, the suit of swords. And we love to say that those swords are your own thoughts.
They are.
It's your own thoughts.
Absolutely. And so much of what holds us back from asserting ourselves is our own thoughts. Just kind of like, oh, it's not my place to assert myself. I'm not good enough to assert myself. What I'm saying is not important enough to assert myself. So it really is those thoughts, like drop those thoughts down. So it's a good thing to perhaps, as we come up to this full moon, to really take some time, do some reflection, do some journaling and think, what stops me from asserting myself? Think about situations in your life where you really felt afterwards, I missed an opportunity there because I didn't grab it. I didn't assert myself. I let somebody else take what was mine.
Yeah.
And so what was it that got in the way of yourself, and how can you let that go now?
I think that that's such a great thing to think about with the Aries full moon, especially, and I know we're going to talk about this next, moving into the Scorpio lunar cycle, because Scorpio is that change. The Phoenix is another story, the story of the Phoenix with Scorpio. And in some traditions, the Scorpio New Moon is the new year, because we have that change. And I think that, I know in my life in particular, every time that I try to not assert myself and kind of hide behind something else, or I'm like, well, somebody else could solve this problem, or we've seen this here at the Sisters Enchanted, where there's been like some hard stuff I've had to deal with, but I've been like, well, I'm just going to put it off, and we're going to maybe try this other thing, or I'm going to hire this other person, or like, we're going to just do this strategy instead of just doing the thing that involved like asserting myself or confrontation or being uncomfortable. And all it does is make the problem worse if you don't practice asserting yourself.
It does, but then the Aries has that energy that makes us frustrated and makes us angry. And it's often like the situations you're saying where you should have asserted yourself and then you don't, and then you're frustrated because what you were trying to assert was so important. So I think another thing we can think about in this Aries moon is, where do I vent frustration in the wrong way? Like for me, I will quite often like scream at a printer that's chewed up a piece of paper when I'm really busy, and it's like, that's not going to help. That printer's not listening. It's not going to make any difference, apart from sometimes make the whole thing collapse and make it even worse while I'm tugging at it rather than gently pulling it out, and makes it worse. So why was I doing that? Because of my frustration about whatever it is I was achieving. So like, I think in this Aries energy as well, it's good for us to think, where do I vent that Aries energy in the wrong way, rather than asserting myself and my passions in the right way? Where am I wasting all that energy by kicking printers and shouting?
Oh my gosh, I feel like you're speaking you're speaking directly to me because that is me, you know, and there's just so many times where I've not wanted to have the hard conversation. And then it just boils over into other things that aren't really the problem at all. It's easier to yell at the printer than a person. Or not yell at a person, but just speak your truth, you know, and just to self-assert. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have the full moon on the 20th. And then the next 2 weeks are the waning portion of the moon. And there's all kinds of stuff happening in there. From the 20th and the full moon, we move into Scorpio season.
Yeah.
October 22nd.
That's right. The sun's in Scorpio on October 22nd. And then, of course, we have the Scorpio moon cycle, which is the end of the year. Traditionally, this was the end of the year before we had our modern calendars, when this was the harvest, like when people were living the land and the harvest. This was the end of the year because, of course, this is the last harvest. And it's the time to kind of come in and look after yourselves and your family through the dark and the cold months, and reflect on the season that went by, the harvest that went by, what went well, what didn't go well, what you're going to do next season, what seeds you're going to plant, how you're going to do things differently, how you're going to carry the same things over. It's that reflective time, and that's kind of what it is for us as well. But obviously in modern life, we don't have the time or the chance to sit and reflect during this season, but it's a really good thing to do. So when we had the sun in Libra, of course, we're connecting with people, and relationships are really important, and finding that balance and that compromise. And I know for a lot of people across the world, it was a time when lockdowns were perhaps a little bit more relaxed and people were getting back together again and so forth. And Libra really likes to please others. It really likes to avoid upsetting that balance. Scorpio is the opposite in that respect. Scorpio is quite happy to tell a friend something really, really hard, some hard truths. I have a friend, he's not Scorpio, but he has that Scorpio energy in my life. He tells me really hard truths. He'd just be like, well, Sarah, you know, this, you know, and it's just like, oh, yeah, you're so right. Like he's my mirror, and that's Scorpio.
Sarah, I have to have you pause for a second. I'm gonna have to have Danielle edit this out. My grandmother just tried to call me and she never calls me. So let me just make sure she's okay.
Yeah, sure.
I saw the time. It was like 12 minutes. I'm gonna have to write it. Hello, Grandma. Okay. 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 Uh-huh. Oh, does she have can we see it or anything? Okay. Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know this. I've seen the sign. I'm doing something right at this moment. I can Google it and then we probably have like 2 hours, right? If I can get back to you in like 2 hours. Okay. Yeah. I'll text Kevin right now and I'll have him look at it too, because he knows even more. Yeah. I know the sign. I've definitely seen it before. So. Okay. All right. Goodbye, Grandma.
Oh.
She was not important at all. But let me just text this to Kevin. It was my grandma, Sara. These elderly people, they're killing me. They're just killing me.
Oh, bless. I have my godmother, who's my mum's age. They're not that older, but 70s. And she lives near Hastings, bless her heart. And she just wants to help. And so, like, I'm going to go and see her tomorrow afternoon for a bit. And then she's like, oh, so what about Monday night? Like, do you want a bed? I'm just like, well, I've got my bed, you know. She's like, why don't you come stay Monday night? And I'm just like, okay, I would love to stay Monday night. But, you know, when you're thinking, what I really want to stay Monday night is stay up nearly all night long, unpacking my house and like, just like when I used to go to university, I used to be the one that would just spend the whole night getting my room straight. I really like to do that, but I hear how much you want to help, and that is so lovely and beautiful. And yes, I would love a bed on that.
I know. She's killing me. This is about my grandma. They're just killing me. They're killing me. She's obsessed with, they need to move because my grandpa has dementia and like they need to move to Connecticut. But now my grandma has this crazy idea that they are going to winter in Florida. And I'm like, well, which they live in Ohio. So they're like in the Midwest of the US. You know, we're over here on the East Coast and then Florida's way down. Florida's like a 17-hour drive from us. And I'm like, so that means that we have to drive to Ohio to get you and then drive you to Florida. Like, it's just like a week of driving for us just to get you there. And then she wants us to stay down there for most of the time. And I'm like, I can work from anywhere, but that's a big ask for me to like just go to Florida for months on end with my, like, that's not, I don't know. Anyway, I can't believe she was up calling a realtor this morning I told her that I told her that I would deal with this, like, because I'm trying to find something. I'm trying to ixnay the situation, you know, trying to just say like, oh, there's nothing available. And she's up calling a realtor this morning. Oh my God.
She means business.
She does. But luckily she said that she told the lady that her granddaughter, which would be me, is the one who deals with all of these things. So she'd have to call me. Anyway, thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted. She never calls me. She because I call her once a day, so she never calls me. So her calling me.
She's seriously excited about the idea of going to Florida.
I know. I thought like something bad happened.
I know. Right. You worry, don't you?
Okay, so you were talking about your Scorpio friend, who's your mirror. If you want to kind of jump back in,
yeah. So I have this friend and he is like, he's not a Scorpio, but he is so much my Scorpio energy. Like he will be my Scorpio mirror. He'll take and he will sting me with that truth and he will just turn it back. If I say something about somebody, he'll turn it back on me like you, Sarah. Like, yeah. Or he'll just be like, he'll call my shadows in that way. If I'm sort of like, oh, that person, and he'll say, yeah, because it's like you, isn't it? And he'll just tell me exactly this is what you're feeling inside, isn't it? This is what you are. And I'm just like, huh. How do you know? You in my head. So that's what Scorpio is. And it's kind of like, so Scorpio likes to sting others for the truth. It likes to know everybody's truth. He wants to delve deep below the surface. Scorpio just loves that depth and it wants to explore what's unseen. So what's unseen in relationships as well. But that also includes our relationship with ourselves. And Scorpio season is so good for us to just like really look at ourselves and our truth, like our inner truth and our integrity, like how well are we living? That's one of the things that he'll call me out. If he doesn't think I'm living true to my integrity, he will call me out on that big time. And of course, in the Northern Hemisphere, the Scorpio sun is the beginning of the season of sowing, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about, this last harvest. And when you think about what's happening at this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere is that everything's dying. The leaves come off the trees and fall. The flowers wither away and wither back into the ground. And so everything is going back to source where it can be transformed, ready to regrow. So it's a really good time in this Scorpio season for us to do exactly the same, to go back to source, because that's what Scorpio wants. Scorpio wants to transform. So go back to source, go deep. Like, what is your integrity? What is your inner truth? Who are you aligned to? What does the divine look like to you? Whatever the divine is to you, whether it's higher self, whether it's a goddess, Mother Earth, whether it's God, whatever it is to you, connect with source and go back down and be nourished with source and be transformed. Ready then to plant your most healthy seeds and your healthiest shoots in the next spring.
Yeah.
But it's all about this energy.
I love that. I love what you were saying about your friend too, and like kind of calling you out, because Anna here, she's a Scorpio rising,
Mm,
and Anna's the first one to look at me and say like, "Well, Sara, is that actually how things are,
yes.
or are
Yes.
you hiding something from yourself right
Yeah.
now?"
A little sort of like something you can work with during this season is obsidian. Obsidian is so good for Scorpio season because obsidian is like a mirror. A lot of people use obsidian for scrying and like
Yeah.
looking for kind of things in terms of divination,
Mhm.
but you can use obsidian for exactly that. If you don't have somebody, if you're thinking, oh, I wish I had somebody who's my obsidian, who's my Scorpio mirror,
Yeah.
get rid of obsidian and use obsidian to be the mirror of this integrity and this kind of, you could ask a piece of obsidian to be your Scorpio mirror through this season and use it to see where where your inner truths and integrities are, and where you kind of maybe are a little bit out of alignment and need that Scorpio energy to help you transform, ready for the next year,
Yeah.
for the end of the year, and so it's for the new year ahead.
I love that. And I love that the this is what's so cool about working with the moon, because we have the Libra new moon, right, which is the
Mm,
lunar cycle we're in now, which is really like your truth and communication and balance and whatnot. And it's this air
mm,
sign. And then we have Aries, which is just like, combustion and
mhm.
like
Yes,
really breaking stuff down around you. And then with all of that chaos that you might create or change, like we get to Scorpio, into
yeah,
Scorpio season, which is the transformation. It's the phoenix rising from the
it is.
ashes. It's the
Absolutely,
scorpions, stinging and rebirth
absolutely.
from that. So it's just when you really are, and this is one of the things that we teach in holistic witchery, it's the intention to intuition model that we follow. And the reason
Yes,
that we do that is
yeah,
because there's all of these touch points and they're constant invitations
yes,
to be present, to reflect, to be intentional, grow. Um, and just when you follow the story and see how you can implement that into your own life, it's
absolutely,
such a beautiful thing.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you have some in our notes here. There are
Mm.
some. Firstly, Sarah's, like as I said in the beginning, she's one of our astrology teachers, so she knows what she's talking about here. But when I read this, I see words like the square is not going to help this at all. We may feel restricted and weighed down. And then that's what I think to myself, it's time to move to Antarctica.
Yes.
Because my
Okay.
Sagittarius self does not like feeling restricted and weighed down.
Yeah. So we have got some additional. So Scorpio is always quite a deep, intense season. But the important thing to remember here is transformation. Like I actually love like squares in astrology are where you have kind of literally two energies squaring up like in a boxing ring. They're like, come on then, come on then, come on then. And then
Yeah.
putting each other into corners and float each other around. And then you have oppositions where it's almost like a tug of war and like, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win. But I really like it. I like them because these are what transform us. These squares, these oppositions, these kind of these are challenges in life that transform us. And we have them in our own charts. And then we have them when these transiting planets, as they are moving through the skies at this real time, how they touch on our own astrology charts, but also how they touch on each other. And at the moment, well, coming into the end of October and into the beginning of November. So as we reach the end of this lunar year, and as we reach the end of October and into this new moon and new year, we are having some challenges in the sky. So we have the sun in Scorpio, in this deep transformative Scorpio, is square with Saturn. So Saturn is the
And this
sign.
is at the end of October?
Yes, this is the end of October. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, this is the end of October. So Sun square Saturn last week of October. So this is where our sun, our ego, who we are how we create ourselves, is squaring up and tussling for power with our sense of authority and our sense of responsibility. Saturn is this energy that
Uh-huh.
comes and says, like, what were you here to do? What were you? It's like Sarah, when Sarah sends messages saying, what are you doing? What are you doing today? Have you done it? That's Sarah is my Saturn quite often. So it's kind of like, this is your responsibility. How well have you faced up to it then? And that's Saturn. And the sun in Scorpio can make us really quite, it can make us, when we're looking deep into ourselves, we can ruminate and we can overthink. So during this time, we might feel, oh, well, I'm just not measuring up. I'm not good enough. I'm not facing my responsibilities. And it's kind of almost like when we've been pulled into appraisal or in Sisters Enchanted, our quarterly reviews, but you can, with yourself, just kind of like, well, I don't think I've done enough. And this is quite difficult energy because you've got Scorpio then ruminating. So you might just like, oh, I'm not a good enough parent. I'm not good enough at my job. I'm not good enough with my spirituality. I'm just not enough. And then Scorpio might make you really kind of like ruminate on that. Well, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And that can kind of lead to depression and depressive thoughts, really, and really feeling quite restricted and weighed down. You might also feel kind of restricted and weighed down by the responsibilities that you have. Like, you know, I have to do this. I have a responsibility to my children, a responsibility to my family, a responsibility to my work, and it's weighing me down. It's stopping me being my creative self that I want to be. And that we can feel that during this time. So I think it's just really important to remember that this is a good thing. This is a good thing because it's good. Saturn comes along to help us to face our responsibilities. And it's not just the responsibilities we put on ourselves through our actual kind of like sort of muggle world. It's also when you look at Saturn and the sign it's in your own birth chart, it's kind of like, well, maybe you came into this world to be responsible for emotional healing or to install passion or whatever. Maybe it's a good thing. Like, have you measured up to that? Well, no, not quite. So what else can you do? What else could you do to measure up to it? So it's actually, again, it's really it's transformative, and it is that kind of like, who are you authentically? That's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. Who am I authentically? Because I've moved to a new area. So it's kind of like, well, I'm Sara and you know nothing about me. So I've got a chance now this is the authentic Sara, and you are going to get to know me as the authentic Sara. And I don't want anything mucking that up. So like in the past, we've all carrying baggage and shadows. I don't want to suddenly do something that's not in line with my authenticity. So you actually don't see who I actually am. I want you to see who I actually am. So that's very much that sort of that Saturn square Sun energy. Just who are you authentically? How are you living up to your authenticity?
I love this. Because right now, so this week we're doing Expedition to Soul. So this will be happening next week when you're listening, when folks who are listening to this is happening next week. And for us, as I mentioned, that intention to intuition model that we teach in Holistic Witchery. And in that last quarter, so the last week of the lunar cycle, that's our ideate phase. And it's really that opportunity to put ideas together and create, like, what would it look like if my life did this? What would it look like if I changed this one thing? What would it look like if, this was my idea? And then we can do really cool like intentions with crystals and candles and whatever you want to do to ideate and to create that into being. But it sounds like that while this energy might feel tumultuous a little bit or like internally trying, it is this invitation to take pieces of yourself and say, well, what if, like, how does this proverbial hat feel if I step into this version of myself or this version and kind of create your most authentic you?
That's exactly it. And then it's like Saturn then really gives you that kind of like knuckle down then. It's time to knuckle down. This is knuckle down time. So when you've ideated, this is how I want to be, then that kind of integration, we talk about the integration, actually making our intentions happen through our lives. It's like, right, so knuckle down then and get it done, get the work done. But getting the work done doesn't have to be, something that's kind of hard and dull. It can be like, you want to paint a picture, you want to paint something, you want to create something, get the work done. Get it done, get the work done. But certainly in Scorpio season, as we come to the end of this like year, it's very much get the work done on yourself as well. Get that work done on you so that you can and go down into that ground. And that's very, it's cozy, it's comfy and cozy. It's like nourishing. So get into that nourishing state and do the work on yourself, do that shadow work. And then you will have such strong, wonderful shoots as a result of it. It's that kind of energy. But we have got a couple of Jupiter is doing some things to help lighten us up a little bit. I think it's interesting just to touch on them, just to let people know that Jupiter is trine with Mercury at the beginning of November as we come up to this new moon, which means that Jupiter is this planet of abundance and opportunities is flowing well with our thoughts and our communication. So that will help us get a little bit of a kind of Okay, I feel quite good. This is making me feel good. This is making me feel optimistic. So all this is going, when you've done all this work and you're doing all this work, Jupiter will help you feel optimistic about it. And also Jupiter is flowing well at the end of October with Venus, which means just for 2 days, but that's a really nice time when people like can, maybe you might feel that people are helping you, your relationships are helping you. So you've got the Jupiter is there kind of giving us a little bit of a, like being a cheerleader a bit in all this hard Scorpio work. Jupiter's going, come on, you can do this. Yes, have belief in yourself.
That's good for us Sagittariuses.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Jupiter on our side.
That's
all right.
it.
So we've got let's just recap. We've got the Aries full moon happening on the 20th. So if you're listening to this today, that right now as it comes out,
yeah,
that's in 2 days. We've started Expedition to Soul. So you want to get your magical tukuses into Expedition to Soul.
Yeah.
And then from there, Scorpio season is 2 days after the full moon. So we're changing from this Libra air into this watery transformation for ourselves and rebirth and growth. And of course, spooky season is well underway once Scorpio hits. And then from there, the last week of October, and it is the waning portion, the last quarter of the lunar cycle, we have the sun square Saturn, which is what's going to bring about this opportunity to understand these internal conflicts and really be our most authentic selves if we can see through it. And Expedition to Soul is going to give you the tools to do it. So join us in there.
Absolutely.
And then, from there though, and that's the end of it. And then we'll get into the new lunar cycle, but we know we can look forward because Jupiter's got our back.
Jupiter's got our back as we're going to the new cycle. Yeah, and it's a great time coming up to that. To the new lunar cycle, this Saturn square sun is a fantastic time to make a new intention, ready to make that a really strong intention for the next lunar cycle and the next lunar year as well, some goals and things.
I love it. So good. Sara, what are you most excited for Expedition to Soul this week?
I am really doing Expedition to Soul myself deeply because I have just moved and I have just moved to the seas, to this where I was born. I really have gone back to source. I've gone back to where I was born, but I don't know anyone here yet. There's a few people that are kind of beginning to get to know a bit. So I am looking forward to doing the whole thing, like in getting to know my kind of like this area again. And I'm really looking forward to just really this pilgrimage to Source, real pilgrimage to Source, and a real kind of like expedition to reclaim my power and just become this new experience, a new life in Expedition Soul. But as well as that's personally, but I'm also really looking forward to seeing everybody's growth over the week, because it's just incredible. People come in at the beginning of the week and to watch their stories unfold and to watch everyone go on that quest. And we have obsidian. Obsidian is a really good stone for quest. It's a questing stone. It's the hero's journey in a piece of stone. So I just feel like watching those heroes' journeys like unfold is just so exciting. I just love it when we're doing Expedition to Soul. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. And we did our first Expedition to Soul 2.5 years ago, thereabout, a little less. And so this one, 2.5 years later, we have just re-recorded all the videos and we pared it down from 7 days to 5 days because we just felt like it's just easier to finish it in 5 days, I think, less commitment. And it's still just as powerful as it ever was. We just took some of the things that really overlapped and put them together.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just so good. So I'm just so looking forward to seeing everyone gather and just to like share and go on this expedition together and this quest together is just so exciting.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. And of course, after Expedition to Soul, we will do a new intake of holistic witchery. So just keep your eyes open for everything. Go to expeditiontosoul.com and you can get signed up for the free class there because it started today, but it's not too late to join us by any means. So get in.
Yeah, come join.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sara. Again, Sara is our program director and astrology teacher. If you like listening to this podcast, Make sure to subscribe and like it, leave a review. Leaving a review, it's such a fast thing and it helps us immensely. Of course, if you're going to leave like a 1-star review, then maybe just keep that to yourself. But if you're going to leave a good review, do that. Subscribe, like, share with a friend, help us get the word out about all the cool stuff we're doing here at the Sisters Enchanted. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the places, our podcast right here where you're listening. And until next time, we hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead.